Section E4101.1 Scope. The requirements of this chapter apply to all electrical raceways containing conductors or cables with an operating temperature in excess of 60 degrees Celsius, which is equivalent to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Such raceways include, but are not limited to, auxiliary gutters, cable trays, and wireways. This section defines the scope of the chapter concerning electrical raceways and sets a threshold for when the chapter's requirements become applicable. Specifically, it addresses raceways that house conductors or cables operating at elevated temperatures. The key aspect is the operating temperature exceeding 60 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit. If the conductors or cables within a raceway operate above this temperature, then the requirements outlined in the chapter must be followed. The section clarifies that the term electrical raceways includes, but isn't restricted to, specific examples. These examples are auxiliary gutters, cable trays, and wireways. This means that while these three types of raceways are explicitly covered by the chapter, other types of raceways may also fall under its scope if they contain conductors or cables operating above the specified temperature. To fully understand the implications of this section, let's delve deeper into each of the key terms. Firstly, electrical raceways refers to an enclosed channel designed to hold electrical wires or cables. Raceways serve to protect the wires from damage, provide a safe pathway for them, and organize the electrical system. Secondly, conductors and cables are the means by which electrical current is carried. Conductors are individual wires, while cables consist of multiple conductors bundled together within a protective jacket. Thirdly, operating temperature refers to the temperature at which the conductors or cables are expected to operate under normal conditions. This temperature is influenced by the amount of current flowing through the conductor, the ambient temperature, and the conductor's insulation rating. Fourthly, auxiliary gutters are metal troughs or enclosures used to supplement wiring spaces at switchboards, panel boards, and similar equipment. They provide additional space for conductors and facilitate the routing and termination of wires. Fifthly, cable trays are rigid structural systems used to support insulated electrical cables used for power distribution, control, and communication. Cable trays are typically open, allowing for easy access to the cables for maintenance and modifications. Finally, wireways are sheet metal troughs with hinged or removable covers for housing and protecting electrical wires and cables. Wireways are often used in exposed locations where the wiring needs to be protected from physical damage. In practical terms, this section of the code means that if an electrical system is designed to use conductors that will operate at high temperatures, careful consideration must be given to the type of raceway used. The raceway must be suitable for the high temperature environment and provide adequate protection for the conductors. It's also important to note that other sections of the code may provide additional requirements for specific types of raceways or for raceways used in particular locations. For example, there may be requirements for fire resistance, corrosion resistance, or grounding. The purpose of this section is to ensure the safe and reliable operation of electrical systems by addressing the potential hazards associated with high-temperature conductors. By setting requirements for the types of raceways that can be used in these applications, the code helps to prevent overheating, insulation breakdown, and other problems that could lead to electrical fires or equipment failure. The scope defined by Section E4101.1 is relatively broad, encompassing various types of raceways commonly used in electrical installations. However, it's essential to remember that the specific requirements for each type of raceway may vary depending on the application and the location. For instance, a cable tray used in a hazardous location may need to meet different requirements than a cable tray used in a general-purpose area. Therefore, it's always crucial to consult the complete code and any applicable local amendments to ensure full compliance. This section serves as an introduction to the requirements for electrical raceways containing high-temperature conductors. It sets the stage for more detailed requirements that follow in the chapter. To fully understand the code's intent, it's necessary to read this section in conjunction with the other sections of the chapter. By understanding the scope of this section, electricians, engineers, and inspectors can ensure that electrical systems are designed and installed safely and in accordance with the applicable codes and standards. The temperature threshold of 60 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit is a critical parameter in determining whether the requirements of this chapter apply. It's essential to accurately assess the operating temperature of the conductors or cables to ensure that the correct type of raceway is selected. The operating temperature should be determined based on the design current, the ambient temperature, and the conductor's insulation rating. If there is any uncertainty about the operating temperature, it's always best to err on the side of caution and select a raceway that is suitable for high-temperature applications. The inclusion of auxiliary gutters, cable trays, and wireways as examples of electrical raceways covered by this section is helpful in clarifying the scope of the chapter. However, it's important to remember that these are just examples, and other types of raceways may also be subject to the requirements of the chapter. For example, electrical metallic tubing, electrical non-metallic tubing, and rigid metal conduit may also fall under the scope of this section if they contain conductors or cables operating above the specified temperature. Ultimately, the determination of whether a particular raceway is subject to the requirements of this chapter depends on whether it contains conductors or cables with an operating temperature in excess of 60 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit. If the temperature threshold is exceeded, then the raceway must meet the requirements outlined in the chapter. It is the responsibility of the installer to verify temperature ratings of the installed conductors. It is also worth noting that the requirements in this section are intended to prevent thermal damage. Overheating of conductors and cables can lead to premature failure of the insulation, which can then result in short circuits, ground faults, and electrical fires. By using appropriate raceways, these risks can be minimized. For example, some raceways are designed to dissipate heat more effectively than others. These types of raceways may be preferred for high-temperature applications. In addition, some raceways are made from materials that are more resistant to heat and fire. These types of raceways can provide an extra layer of protection in case of an electrical fault. The requirements of this chapter are not intended to be overly burdensome or restrictive. Rather, they are designed to ensure the safety and reliability of electrical systems. By following these requirements, installers can help to prevent electrical hazards and protect people and property from harm. It's important to remember that electrical codes are constantly evolving. Therefore, it's essential to stay up to date on the latest changes and revisions. This can be done by attending training courses, reading industry publications, and consulting with experts. By staying informed, installers can ensure that they are always using the best practices and complying with the latest codes and standards. In summary, Section E4101.1 of the 2003 International Residential Code defines the scope of the chapter concerning electrical raceways containing high-temperature conductors. The key elements of this section are the operating temperature threshold of 60 degrees Celsius or 140 degrees Fahrenheit, and the inclusion of auxiliary gutters, cable trays, and wireways as examples of electrical raceways covered by the chapter. This section serves as an introduction to the requirements for electrical raceways containing high-temperature conductors and sets the stage for more detailed requirements that follow in the chapter. By understanding the scope of this section, electricians, engineers, and inspectors can ensure that electrical systems are designed and installed safely and in accordance with the applicable codes and standards. This section is important because it addresses the specific hazards associated with high-temperature conductors. It is important to choose an adequate raceway that can handle the temperature and prevent damage. Lastly, by using appropriate raceways, these risks can be minimized. The NEC, or National Electrical Code, provides similar guidance and requirements. The NEC is a widely adopted standard for safe electrical installations. While the specific section numbers and wording may differ, the underlying principles and goals are the same. The NEC also emphasizes the importance of selecting appropriate wiring methods and raceways for the specific application and environment. This includes considering factors such as temperature, moisture, and the presence of corrosive substances. Installers should always consult both the IRC and the NEC, as well as any applicable local amendments to ensure full compliance with all relevant codes and standards.